there, my name is Sparks, and today I'm going to be doing my very first character review ever. And I'm going to be awkward about this, because it's not scripted. Like, none of my videos I ever make with a voice are scripted, so that's a thing. And also, this is my first character review ever, so hopefully I don't butcher this. Okay, before I start, though, I just really quickly want to thank, my friend Rimi for drawing me these beautiful character sprites, because I was too lazy to do it for myself, and I kind of wanted to get revenge for her making me review her characters. Anyway, let's get on with the video. So today I'll be reviewing a full-drawn OC named Winyan, the best anime trap. I am familiar with this character since me and Rimi are friends, and she talks about him a few times. Let's start off with the design. So I know pretty much everything on his body has a reason for being there. He's a fairly interesting design to look at, and I think all of his color choices work pretty well together. If I had a complaint, the only complaint I really have is that I personally still don't really like the wings on his butt. I know they're there for a reason, but I've just never been a fan of those. Anyway, onto bio stuff. Okay, so starting off with his bio, there's a bunch of stuff before his actual bio about his species, Vinlerans, and I think it's actually really, really interesting and nice to see so much thought put into the species and the way they work. Like, you even made time measurements, which is actually really nice to see. You put a lot of thought into it, clearly, and it's just really nice to see. Usually I don't see that much depth and thought put into just normal old species information. So yeah, A+ on that. I'm not going to read all of it because it's way too much for me to read, and it's not even on the actual character, so I'll just leave all this stuff in the description if you actually want to read it yourself. Okay, so on to his actual bio. Name, Winyan of the Ark. I'm not sure why of the Ark is added, but I'm just going to call him Winyan since that's basically his name. His age is about 8.5 win bar, which is roughly 17 in human years. Reasonable, no problem there. His species is Finlera. He's male, but he looks like a female. That's why I called him an anime trap earlier on. It says here that he's 4'9", but 5'4", depending on his mood, and I think that's a thing dealing with his species. I believe he's some kind of shapeshifter, and he can get smaller depending on his mood, so that's an interesting little thing. And his weight, he's just about 119 pounds, no shoe there. It's not really important. There's stuff about his family, but I don't really think there's much in the bio about him. I mean. So he speaks the language on his planet, Vilbeck, I think you say, and English, but he's also trying to learn Altan, which is reasonable since he's with, the Paladins, and, just learn Altan. Says here his common shape-shifting. He has a human form that is based primarily on Lance and Hunk's, appearances and descriptions, which is interesting. A small creature similar to a cat that is known to the Vinler as a Cubo. That sounds really close to Cube, and it gives me anxiety. But continuing on, the Paladins, on occasion for practice, he can shapeshift into them. So that's all good. I don't really have any problems with that. Okay, on to personality. This poor boy. He's very paranoid, he's skittish, submissive in literally everything. He just doesn't argue. He's a gratuitous bean, her words, but I would also say that. He's curious about a lot. He's an introvert, obviously. He doesn't like big crowds. He'll probably cry if you take a french fry from him. I'm just reading out the personality as Rimi wrote it. He's a crybaby. He misses his home. He misses his sister too. He's very self-deprecating, unfortunately. He's sympathetic. He worries about a lot. He's a dreamer. Slightly above average intelligence, for his race at least. He puts out fires above himself. He doesn't value himself too much, but that was stated before. You don't really need to put that since you already put that he's self-deprecating. I don't really see much reason for you to state that again. He values others in their company and trust. That's kind of a thing you could get from most of it. He's a good listener. He doesn't correct people, which, again, he doesn't argue, so, and would cry if you stubbed your toe. Okay, the only problems I have with the personality is that you state a lot of stuff over and over again, and I don't really see a purpose as to why there's repetition with the personality. So you might want to just clear up some of that stuff. There's a lot of stuff listed, and most of it is repeating stuff you already said in earlier points. So there's that. Among his race, he is ranked in Omega because their race also has some sort of caste system. His likes, dislikes, and backstory are still a big work in progress. Because this isn't necessarily a fully done bio. She gave me the most she has at the time. But, I'll just read the backstory that is currently set up and talk about it afterwards. Winyan and a good portion of his species were enslaved by the Galra as servants and builders. Eventually, some stuff went down. A Galra soldier caused havoc and escaped, and things escalated until they were attacked by the lions. Of course, the gang won. And they freed the Vinlarans. They landed on, I'm not sure how to say that, Arcthis? I think Arcthis. Intentions to ensure everything down there was cool. The Queen Morla, formerly Princess Morla, slid in and basically said, take this one, we don't want him, and offered Winyan as a sort of payment, almost a slave, and to act as a proper communicator between the Vinlaran species and the Paladins. And they didn't really know how to react, but the Queen kind of forced them to take him. And they forced him to take him, and that kind of sucked. And he's with the Paladins now, and he's being very useless. It says, hey, at least he's a cheerleader and can help keep the castle clean. So that's basically his backstory. Clearly the backstory isn't really taking itself seriously, and there's very little there, and there's not a lot of detail or anything, but from the basic gist of it, it's not bad. I would just say to put a lot more interest and development into it. The not taking yourself seriously thing, that's not a problem per se, but I think you're taking yourself a little too not seriously, because if you actually read the paragraph, I left some stuff out to make it sound a little more professional. But yeah, the backstory is probably the weakest part of the character so far, and I would, out of everything that you need to develop, I would recommend developing that most. Specifically what happened that led to the lions attacking, because you literally just said, oh, a Galra soldier escaped and stuff like that. So, yeah, might want to work on that a bit. Alright, so here's this very rushed, unscripted character review. He seems like a pretty decent character. Has a very pleasant design to look at. He has a reason for pretty much everything on his design, which is a really nice thing to see. Unfortunately, I'd have to say that his own species is more developed than he is, and his backstory is actually kind of weak right now, but I understand that's because you haven't finished it, and it's still a big work in progress, so I can give that a pass. And his personality's pretty alright too, but, like I said about the repetition, you kept repeating stuff over and over for it. So my main recommendations is to work on the backstory, and his personality, but mainly the backstory. That's pretty much it, because everything else about him is actually pretty good. So that was my first OC review, and it was probably terrible. But my bud, she gave me 4 characters to review, and I thought, hey, let's at least do one. So that was my character review of Winyan. Peace.